Hello everyone, my name is Laura Boon. I'm a writer, editor and guest host for Pam Cook's Writes for Women podcast, and I'm delighted to be sharing some of the books I loved this year with you on her 12 Days of Christmas. Pam mentioned 4 books. How can I choose 4 books? How can I settle on 4 books when there are so many wonderful books that came out this year or even last year that I didn't get to read until this year? So I'm going to work in multiples of 4. The first set of 4 are honorary mentions, and they're honorary mentions purely because other people have already mentioned them, so they don't need a lot of discussion from me. Starting with Terry Green's The Swordmaster's Daughter and An Unsuitable Pursuit, which are fabulous, funny, historical fiction novels set in just after the Tudor period under the rule of James I. And they're typically Terry. They're funny, wise, sassy, and I love them. The next one is The Good Mother by Ray Keynes, an amazing debut thriller about what an ordinary mother will do in extraordinary circumstances to protect her family. The final honorable mention goes to Shelter from the Storm by Penelope Janu. This is an arc. I was very fortunate to read it. The book comes out on the 2nd of January, and if it isn't on your Christmas reading list yet, make sure you put it there. Penelope's heroines are always vulnerable, a little prickly on the exterior. Her heroes are not only swoon-worthy, but dependable, reliable, and hopelessly head over heels in love with their heroines. This is Patience Cartwright's story. She's Phoebe's sister. And Hugo, the hero, has also made an appearance in previous books. It's an absolutely wonderful romance. And every time I read one of Penelope's books, I also learn a lot about the environment. Now, as some of you will know, those 3 writers are all members of my writing group, The Inkwell. I make no apologies for recommending their books. They're fabulous, and I'm happy to defend them to all comers. But moving on, here are 4 reviews from authors I know nothing about or don't know in person. The first is Indira Holton's The League of Gentlewomen Witches. This was a revelation. It's hilarious. It's a Regency set in Victorian times in which witches roam London undercover, because of course being a smart woman who can do spells is dangerous, and pirates with nominal magic skills also roam London, not undercover, because being a big thug has never been a particularly big problem in our society. If you love The Princess Bride, you will love Indira Holton's books. They are sassy, funny, full of references to Jane Austen. Princess Bride in paper. This is her 2nd book in the series. The first one was The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. It's about the pirate side. This is about the witch side. You can't go wrong. They'll just make you chuckle in delight as you pick up all the references. Next, I'm going to recommend Famous in a Small Town by Kylie Scott. This is a rock star romance, and it's perfect, as Kylie's romances always are. Again, they're smart, quirky. Her heroines are always very original, very regular kind of girls. Kylie has no patience for perfectly groomed size 6 models, and her very ordinary heroines always get the guy that everybody wants. In this case, Annie has come back to her small town to get over some things that have disturbed her recently. Garrett, the rock star, has not got over the fact that his wife died 2 years ago, and he's just bought a huge mansion where he's trying to avoid everyone, including his former bandmates. That mansion is right next door to Annie's house. And she proceeds to delete him off her phone as her favorite pinup of the moment, because she feels it's not appropriate now that they're neighbors. But she also can't resist helping him when the paparazzi and various people pursue him, and it develops into a really lovely romance. The next book I would like to recommend is Heartbreaker by Sarah MacLean. It's a historical romance. It's part of her Hell's Bells series. This is again Victorian romance, and she based it on a girl gang. So there was a real life Victorian girl gang of thieves. Sarah's girl gang is made up of aristocrats, female, who bring male members of the aristocracy who are above the law, essentially, because there's not yet a police system, and the only people who can try or censure aristocrats is Parliament itself, and they're not fond of doing that since that's their cohort. These four women bring justice in their own ways. This is Adelaide's story. She finds ways to prevent unwilling brides from being forced to marry nasty men. She falls in love with a duke, and it's really an enemies to lovers story. He has secrets to keep. Adelaide is a thief in her former life, and there's nothing like a secret to tempt a thief. So what is he trying to hide? And it goes from there. Sarah's books are very rich and lushly described. They're quite gothic. And it is better to read them in order if you're keen on the whole series, because she does have an overarching theme, but they can equally be enjoyed as standalone reads. My final recommendation is Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. This is a non-fiction book. Brene Brown, many of you will know, she's a social worker, a famous one, very articulate. And in this book, she gives us a way to talk about and communicate about feelings so that we can articulate those things that give us joy and give us pain so that we can communicate better with those around us. She's divided about 80 emotions into topics like places we go when things are uncertain or too much, places we go when we compare, places we go when things don't go as planned, places we go when it's beyond us, places we go when things aren't what they seem, places we go when we are hurting, and many others. It's a fabulous book, and I highly recommend it for anyone who's having trouble communicating or who's just going through a rough time and wants to understand for themselves what their body is trying to tell them. Then I thought I would just quickly mention 4 books that are on my reading list for Christmas. The first is A Holly Jolly Christmas by Katie Montenero. I'm hoping you can see these images. They're not easy to show. The second is Breaking All the Rules by Amy Andrews. It's a rom-com. The third is Her Worthy Rake by Charlotte Ann. That comes out in January. It's a follow-up to The Unworthy Duke, which was a delightful Regency debut. And the fourth is A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting, which is a historical rom-com. So I'm looking forward very much to all of those. My most recent book is Tips from a Book Publishing Industry Insider. If there's an aspiring writer in your life who'd like to know a little bit more about how the industry works, this would be great for them. And I'm pleased to announce that I have a new novel coming out in February called Love on the Edge. So all that remains is for me to wish you a very Merry Christmas, a wonderful holiday, and the opportunity to read lots of books.